Welcome to Winchester. This is one of the most beautiful cathedral cities in the UK and is only around an hour away from London on the train. The area surrounding Winchester has been inhabited by people for thousands of years, and it even became a really important settlement to the Romans, and today traces of this Roman past can occasionally be seen in Winchester. The city grew to true prominence in 871 when King Alfred was crowned the King of Wessex at the tender age of just 21. At this time, Wessex was one of the most important kingdoms in Britain, and they controlled a lot of power and land in the region. Aside from the Christmas market, there are several other cozy activities in Winchester, and we'll show them to you in this video. Let's head on to the high street to show you some of the highlights. There's a sign there that says the Royal Oak is allegedly the oldest bar in England, but I'm pretty sure that that title actually goes to the porch, which is in Stow-in-the-Wold in the Cotswolds. The Great Hall is yet another historic place to visit in Winchester, and it dates all the way back to the 13th century. Inside, you'll find a copy of what is alleged to be King Arthur's Round Table. It was actually commissioned by Henry VIII, but it's quite beautiful nevertheless. Unfortunately, you do have to pay to enter, and we're a little short on time, so we won't be able to visit today. King Alfred laid his Saxon city out in the grid style to protect it from would-be Dane invaders. A few centuries later, following the Battle of Hastings in 1066, the widow of King Harold actually gave up the city of Winchester to William the Conqueror and the Normans. William the Conqueror then established a really important Norman palace here, and today you can see several ruins of Winchester Castle from when it was the capital of England around 800 years ago. During the 12th and 13th centuries, Winchester experienced a bit of a decline because the capital of England was moved to London. However, it still remains a mighty, yet small, important piece of English history. You can learn even more about the history of Winchester in its City Museum, which is conveniently located right next to the cathedral. In Roman times, the city was known as Venta Belgarum, and today just a single piece of the original wall that once would have encircled the entire Roman fortification can still be seen right by the River Itchen. The River Itchen is the main river that runs through Winchester, and its course was actually diverted by the Romans several millennia ago, and that actually impacted the cathedral, but we'll talk about that later. One of the main highlights of the River Itchen is the City Bridge, which is said to have been originally constructed all the way back in the 9th century by St. Swithin, who is a patron saint of Winchester. Today, it's said that if it rains on that bridge on the 15th of July, it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights continuously after that date. Although the first walls of the city were constructed during Roman times in around the 3rd century Common Era, most of what remains today was actually built during the Middle Ages. However, by the 14th century, there was a gradual decline of Winchester, and therefore a lot of the walls were destroyed during this time. And by the 18th century, they'd become a bit of a nuisance for local buildings, and so even more of them were taken down. Most of what remains today can be seen alongside the river. Wolvesey Palace was once home to the bishops of Winchester, making it one of the most important medieval palaces in all of England. You see, the bishops of Winchester were some of the most powerful people in the church at the time, and they owned estates ranging from Somerset all the way to London. Today, you can visit the ruins of the palace. It's owned and run by the English Heritage. It's free entry, but there are opening times, so do be sure to check these in advance before visiting. So apparently this is just one of the many residences that the bishops of Winchester would have lived in. They actually led quite a life and would have travelled around their area, or diocese as it's known, in order to meet with royals, other ministers and the like. During these trips they would have between 50 and 100 people helping them out, giving them everything that they possibly could have needed. At this time, this was honestly a life fit for a king. Bookshops can be found in abundance across the city, and so don't forget to leave room in your suitcase for a souvenir of a book or two. Unfortunately, you do have to pay to visit Winchester Cathedral, and I do find the price quite steep as it's more than £10 per adult. But if you do pay to visit just one attraction in town, then I do recommend making it this glorious ecclesiastical masterpiece, as you won't be disappointed once you've gone inside. The most famous person to be interred in Winchester Cathedral is probably Jane Austen, and it might surprise many fans, but there's no mention of her literary works on her actual gravestone, and that's because at that time it was considered to be a man's job to be a writer as opposed to a woman's. Once inside, if you recognise the interior of Winchester Cathedral, then it's probably because it was actually used as a filming location in both Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code and also Netflix's hit show The Crown. While the building you see today was erected during the 11th century, Winchester has had a cathedral since 642 Common Era. It is not only one of the largest cathedrals in England, but it also boasts the longest nave of any Gothic cathedral in Europe, if not the world. While you're exploring the cathedral, don't hesitate to head to the far end to see a statue dedicated to William Walker, who single-handedly saved the cathedral with his bare hands. You see, back at the beginning of the 1900s, because the church is constructed on peat, it was actually gradually sinking into the ground. In order to enable bricklayers to build supporting walls and lower the surrounding groundwater, Walker dove down into the foundations and spent 6 hours a day for literal years in total darkness to shore up the walls. One of the more peculiar features of the cathedral is the abstract design of the west window. It was actually destroyed during the English Civil War and was rebuilt using pieces of shattered windows from across the cathedral, leading to this lovely abstract design. Winchester Cathedral Christmas Market takes place in the shadow of Winchester's illustrious cathedral and now boasts around 120 chalets. The market's been running since 2006, with the exception of 2020. There used to be an ice skating rink, but that's now been replaced with a central food court. Like almost every other Christmas market in England, the market is completely free to visit and wander around. If you want to avoid the crowds, then I highly suggest visiting during the early week, as this will be a little quieter. However, for the most convivial atmosphere, visit between Thursday and Saturday. As well as the main market, which is directly outside of the cathedral, you can head to the Makers Market. This is tucked down a little narrow alleyway and boasts lots of local vendors selling their own homemade wares. In terms of the best time of the day to visit, I highly recommend visiting after dark, as this is when Winchester Cathedral is lit up and glows as a majestic backdrop to the market. This and the fact that you'll have the best vision when it comes to seeing the steam waft off the huge cauldrons of mulled wine. Wandering back down the high street after dark is also not a bad idea. There are lots of beautiful illuminations as well as a giant Christmas tree. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more UK travel content. See you next time, bye!